This is FYI, a public affairs program of Strong Tower Christian Media on 93.7 The Light and Hope 100.7.
And welcome to FYI. I'm JT Burcham, and it's my honor to talk with interesting people about fascinating projects. And today, definitely one of those, talking with a licensed professional counselor, Rob Jackson from Focus on the Family. Rob, thank you for being here today. How's your day going?
JT, it's a great day, and thanks for the opportunity to be with you.
It's such an honor to talk with you. I was told, I was asked the question, hey, would you like to talk with Rob Jackson from Focus on the Family about identity?
Yeah.
And I said, sure. And so here we are, but I don't know a whole lot more than that. So you're going to have to help me kind of make our way through the next few moments. When you say identity, you're saying identity in Christ, I believe. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I am. But everyone struggles with identity. Like, who am I? What's the meaning of my life? How can I cope with what life is throwing at me? Who loves me? Even after this life, where am I going? So I think everyone, regardless of their faith and their understanding, is asking, who am I? And of course, I'm happy to talk about identity in Christ because He is our life. We move and live and have our being in Him. And through Christ and by the Spirit, we can relate to the Father and to each other. So identity really is getting down to the nuts and bolts of who am I because of God creating me and because of God relating to me as a human being.
Now, I don't want to ask a tricky question right off the top, but I know I hear sexual identity in the news quite a bit. Is that something you have to deal with? Is that something under your identity caption?
Yeah, I am frequently, as a Christian counselor, having to deal with that topic a great deal. And I've been working as a counselor now for, I think maybe 35 years, something like that. Since 2000, I've worked predominantly around the issues of sexuality, including pornography addiction, sex addiction, infidelity, sex abuse. And here more recently in the last, 3 to 5 years, we've had so much emphasis on sexual identity. And so much of the culture is talking about, the LGBT community. And we have parents and grandparents calling in and saying, my child or my grandchild, has some confusion about who he or she is. And basically it comes down to identity, JT. Who am I? Who created me? And what does it even mean to be a male or a female?
As we know, there are folks in our leadership who can't always describe what being a male or female is. So what is your answer when that comes? I mean, we only have 14 minutes. We're down to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
But I know you probably do books and speeches and all kinds of talks. But the nutshell version, what do you tell that grandparent who might be listening now, hearing that question?
Yeah, let's get back to creation. God created male and female in His image. And then He even said, go be fruitful. It's interesting that the first thing God directed was for them to be reproducing after their own kind, as everything else in creation was doing. And that would take a biological male and a biological female. And so I see the joy in God's creation. And it's going to be important to remember that before there was a original sin, there was original sex. And original sex in the Garden of Eden began with a biological male and a biological female having sexual intercourse to reproduce after their own kind to the glory of God.
Now, you mentioned a moment ago that you also work with marriages and families that are going through trauma and great challenge. What are some of the biggest challenges facing couples and families these days? I mean, what should we be avoiding?
Yeah. Well, so many times when a bad thing happens, we think, I'm bad. A crisis comes into our life and maybe we don't respond as well as we would hope. Maybe it catches us completely off guard. Maybe we actually react poorly instead of, responding well. And then we get into our shame cycle and we kind of want to cover ourselves and bury our head in the sand and isolate and close the door and not have anybody really interacting with us. And this can occur because we've lost a job. This can occur because we're, running out of money. This can occur with food scarcity. This can be something that happens with a conflict at church, something that's happening in a conflict with the family over, for example, recently, do we vax or not? What do we do with COVID? Where can we go? Do we wear a mask? I mean, this absolutely hits so many families. And of course, we've got the political season upon us, and we've got, a couple of wars going on right now that are highly significant, and everybody has opinions.
Mm-hmm.
What often is happening is we're getting our identity mixed up with all this stuff.
Yeah.
My identity is not, am I liberal or conservative? It's not, this or that, but rather, am I in Christ? Am I enjoying God who made me? Maybe I don't enjoy my circumstances. Let's be honest and fair. But God, the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, well, He's my life. And that's our identity.
Yeah. Fascinating point there. I was going to ask you that, but you brought it up before me. National identity is another thing. Yeah, people.
It's huge.
Yeah, and yeah, boy, being part of a party, then you hate the other people. I mean,
Exactly.
that can't be healthy. It can't be
No, it
healthy.
can't be. And I think really our society is so polarized. I mean, I'm not ancient, but I'm 62, and I've never seen a time when our society is more polarized. And I find it, humanly speaking, quite discouraging, dehumanizing, and even frightening. And so, how much more the individual needs their hope in God, who's got this.
Right.
God has already got this all worked out, and it's not like we can just sit back and not engage, but we can stand in Christ. We can be on our knees before the Lord, and we can cope a lot better.
Yeah. Now I'm kind of bouncing around on topics here, so I apologize. But I also
No, that's
see
good.
a porn addiction in your counseling repertoire.
Yeah.
Relevant or in today's society, it's everywhere. You can't
Yeah.
miss it. Pick up your phone. You look at the billboard. It's everywhere.
Right.
How do you advise gentlemen and ladies to make it through porn addiction?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you included the women, because today younger women are also a fast growing population for the usage of pornography. And so I think it goes back to understanding that naturally we are sexual beings. We talked just a moment ago about God saying to Adam and Eve, our first parents, go be sexual, go be fruitful. And that is perfectly good. God is not, got a black cloud over human sexuality. But our sexuality has fallen, it has been debased. And now, the enemy, the world system, our own flesh absolutely wants to consume sex, in a way that is unholy, rather than using sexuality in a way that is holy and right and actually reproductive. And so I try to help people think through, when you're getting triggered sexually and some temptation is coming at you, realize that's stressful. There's nothing peaceful about that. That's not the peace of God. That's not creating peace in you. That's not creating peace toward other people when you are being seduced, perhaps even unwantedly, because of what's on the billboard or whatever. And so I do want people to understand sex is not the problem.
Right.
And you don't really get addicted to pornography as much as you get addicted to the neurochemistry in your brain and throughout your body with nervous systems and so on. And it is something we can overcome, but that's why identity is so crucial to the equation. Anytime we have an addiction of any type, we're just living out of our identity disorder. We have a crisis of identity. We're consuming the things God did not design for us to consume. When we go back to our identity in Christ, we do not have an identity crisis, and then we're more likely to live up to the creation and the creation mandates that God has given his people.
Yeah. Now, you take us back to creation each time. I like that.
Absolutely.
I like that. Yeah,
Absolutely. I can't get
re-
away from it.
that's really the basis. Yeah.
It
Okay.
is.
In case you just tuned in, we're talking with Rob Jackson from Focus on the Family, licensed professional counselor. Rob, you're just answering all the questions, so I'm going to keep going. Okay. Uh, uh, in your experience, another thing our culture is experiencing a lot of sex trafficking, and with so much just abuse and you hear it everywhere, and with the southern border kind of the way it is, not to be political, but I mean, it's rampant. And what do you say to a grandparent or parent who's struggling, disconnecting with their kids and fearing, that?
Yeah. That's a great question, because actually it's understandable that the human being would have fear that someone is going to harm my child or harm my grandchild, or perhaps even harm me.
Sure.
And so I think part of this is trusting in a big God. I mean, we're not ignorant of the fact that there are people being sexually assaulted today, and it appears in record number with sexual trafficking. So this is not like some Sunday school answer or some Christian bumper sticker approach. I mean, this is real pain. And even the fear that something might happen is real pain. But see, that's it. The fear that something might happen, we call anticipatory anxiety. I'm anticipating something that hasn't happened, might not ever happen. And what it's doing is it's robbing me of my joy right now. And when you have anticipatory anxiety related to your children and grandchildren on any topic, you are now parenting and grandparenting out of fear.
Yeah.
And they're going to pick up on that. And fear is really toxic. It would be so much better to parent out of faith and also be teaching what is resilience, what is spiritual, psychological, behavioral, relational resilience inside Christian identity. Because bad things do happen. But when a bad thing happens, it doesn't make you bad.
Yeah. And you bring us again back to being a child of God, and him wanting the best for us, just as he did in creation. You get us back there every time. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't get enough of creation. And it just seems logical that with us being created by God, if we learn to cooperate in grace with him and kind of operate accordingly, things will go better than if we think ourselves to be the center of the world.
30 seconds. Last question, kind of tricky though. How do you deal with those folks who don't have that creation world view? I think we're talking to people who probably do have, but sometimes we have to talk to them.
Sure.
I guess we just have to compel them that God is real,
Yeah, I think we meet them with respect. We
Sure.
meet them with patience. We talk about our own doubts, about whatever we have in our faith experience. And we just kind of leave them with a question, perhaps, but what if it's true?
Yeah.
What if we are, in fact, created by God, who said, let us, Father, Son, and Spirit, make mankind in our image? What a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Evolution's pretty ugly. Creation is beautiful, inspirational, it's fantastic.
Well spoken. Thank you. Rob Jackson, if someone has heard the conversation with you today, would like to know more, do you have a website? Do you have resources where you push people for more information?
Absolutely. Come to focusonthefamily.com. That's always a great place to get started. You can also call us at 800, the letter A, the word family. We've got trained counselors who would love to speak with you on any number of topics, and we'll try to find resources and referrals through our Christian counselor directory who can serve you in your locale.
Yeah, there we go. Because you talked a lot of issues and you offered a lot of answers. It sounds like you've got support and resources and encouragement too. So,
yeah,
Rob Jackson, you're awesome. Thank you so much for chatting today. Appreciate it. Let's do it again sometime.
My joy. I would love that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too.
This is FYI, a public affairs program of Strong Tower Christian Media on 93.7 The Light and Hope 100.7.